It is week 9 of the high school football season in Indiana. Nobody better to talk with than Justin Kitty of Optimum Performance Sports here on Inside the Zone. And Justin, we're finally here.
We are.
The regular season will be in the rear view after Friday night. Going into this final week of the season, before we delve into individual conference races or individual games, what are you most looking forward to? Because, it just feels like it was August and they were strapping on the pads
right.
like not all that long ago. And I know we say that all the time and we say that each week. Oh, it's going by fast. But it's unfathomable to me that we are ready for the postseason after Friday night.
We are, and yet we still have some big games to decide some conferences in week 9. So you look at, do we have a SAC outright champion in Bishop Luers? Do we have a shared champion in the SAC? Same thing in the NE8. We have 3 teams tied now, with New Haven falling to East Noble last week. And it looks like Adams Central is going to win the ACAC, but you never know. So plenty to be decided in week 9.
When you take a look at the SAC, a lot of people we said for the past few weeks, it's the talk of the town.
It is the talk of the town.
People, there are 2 sides to this, but the one thing I have to say is Luers has played with the heart of a champion. They've won close games down the stretch, and you can only play the schedule that you were given, and they have answered the bell. See what I did there? Literally, well, figuratively, but you take a look at our highlight zone game of the week. You've got Bishop Luers undefeated in SAC play.
Yeah. They
clinched a share of the SAC's victory belt last week. They will play at a Homestead team that, with Brett Fox running the ball like a maniac, can be very dangerous. We saw what they did against Snyder back in week 6. So how do you approach this game? What is your view on the football field? Not necessarily in the standings, but on the football field Friday night at Dave S. Walters Memorial Stadium.
Seems pretty easy for Bishop Luers to slow down Brett Fox, right? A guy that goes for 355 yards and 6 touchdowns last week. So had already broken the rushing record for a game at halftime with 290 yards rushing. So for Bishop Luers, you come into this game and you're looking to wrap up an undefeated regular season in the SAC. People will say whether that's an asterisk or not, but the point of the matter is they have 7 games that they were scheduled in the SAC, and every one of those games is going to be against a school that is bigger than them, and they have a chance to go 7-0 in those games. Regardless of whether you play Snyder or Carroll or Homestead or Dwenger or whoever, like you said, the schedule is the schedule, and they will have won every game in front of them. And to win it outright, well, they will have to beat a 6A team on their home field.
And you take a look at them offensively, it's kind of like you've got Isaac Zay on the outside, a big wide receiver. You've got Mickey Daring, kind of guts, glory, heart there in the backfield. And those guys have really pulled them through. I imagine if you're Homestead's defensive coordinator, that's priority number 1 this week, is making sure perhaps those 2 guys don't beat you.
Well, I think the key thing is making Cohen McKenzie uncomfortable. They have to put some pressure on him. And if you give Cohen time to go through his progressions and get the ball downfield, he is very good at doing that. But if you can rattle him, if you can shake him, if you make him throw some balls off balance, maybe get him out of rhythm, then it can really affect the Bishop Luers offense. I truly think Bishop Luers, not just in this game, but into the playoffs, they're going to go as far as Cohen McKenzie takes them. And this is another big game for him in his development that we've seen throughout the course of the season. You could argue this is his biggest test of the year, at least in the SAC.
When you take a look at the other side of it, Brett Fox, as we've already alluded to, a great season. He and Uriah Buchanan's numbers are almost identical. Yeah. We're talking 1,200 plus yards, 14 to 15 touchdowns. To me, those are the first team SAC, all SAC running backs. Those are the guys that have been the hardest to stop week in and week out so far this season. So if you're Bishop Luers' defensive coordinator, what do you do to make sure and limit him and try to corral what has been the most difficult thing for other teams to do this season, and that's stop that Homestead running game?
Well, at least for a benefit for Bishop Luers is you face teams that are very run heavy. We look at Bishop Dwenger. They did a really good job in the Battle of the Bishops of slowing down that running attack. But you have to win the point of attack. Bishop Luers is the biggest team around, but they are physical and they're quick and they can get around you in the trenches and make plays. So I think when you look at guys like Damian Jackson, who has had an unheralded season, I think, for Bishop Luers, he could be a key there on the edge. I really think it's all about Bishop Luers getting that push up front, bottling things up, not allowing Brett Fox to get loose, because as we've seen as recently as last Friday, he's incredibly dangerous when he gets out of the open field.
Elsewhere in the SAC, Luers is 6-0 at the top of the standing. Snyder's 5-1, Carroll's 5-1. Snyder has Wayne at Snyder this week, and then Northside will travel to Carroll. If you're Carroll and you're Snyder and you know you're going to be off next week with that bye, how do you approach this game? I mean, do you keep the foot on the gas pedal through all 4 quarters because you have to win to make sure that, if Homestead knocks off Luers, that you've done your part to bring the victory bell. And B, you don't have a week. I mean, it's very odd in high school to have an off week. We're used to seeing everybody play Friday night, and you don't want to get rusty as you head into, what are the most important games of the season when you get into sectionals and it's win or go home every night.
Right. No, I think you play 4 quarters in this game. If you're up 60, that's another story. But you're playing 2 solid teams in Wayne and Northside, so I don't know if you're going to win by that many. But I think for Carroll and Snyder, you have to make sure that you're playing some of your best football. Now we've seen Carroll the last couple of weeks perform well after some midseason struggles, and then we've seen Snyder do the same. So I think it's a good challenge for both of them because this isn't just going out on Friday and going through the motions. They're not playing necessarily a bottom feeder in the SAC. So both of these teams are capable of making some plays and putting you back on your back foot if you're not ready to play. So I think for Snyder and Carroll respectively, they want to take care of business because they have a chance to tie for the SAC championship, but they also want to take some good momentum into the playoffs.
We go into the final week of Northeast 8 play with 3 teams 5-1 in conference play. New Haven 5-1, East Noble 5-1, Leo 5-1. All 3 of those teams will be heavily favored on Friday night. So there's a very good chance you could see a 3-way tie when it's all said and done for the NE8 title. And a lot of that goes back to last Friday night. It was our highlight zone game of the week. New Haven falling at East Noble. What's the big takeaway from that? And, they're going to see each other a week from now in the first round of the sectionals. I can tell you what the game of the week is going to be next week.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A rematch. We hope Milan Graham is healthy for that one because you wish to see all the weapons, especially when everything's on the line in the postseason.
The NE8, it's almost fitting that we could have a 3-way tie because we've gone throughout the season going, okay, Leo's the best team. No, wait, no, New Haven. And then you're like, well, wait, what about East Noble? They're coming out of nowhere. So it almost feels like those teams should just share it because with each successive week, it feels like you have a different argument to make for a team to be the best team in the NE8. And so all of them are 1-1 against each other. So you can't break the tie even if you did in the NE8, which you don't. So it seems fitting for those 3 to share it. For New Haven, you're looking for a rebound this week and then get ready for a rematch with East Noble. You get that at home. You hope to get Milan Graham back as well. But, man, for a New Haven team that came in undefeated, could win the NE8 outright, to lose to East Noble in the way that they did and then draw the Knights to start the playoffs, it's been really difficult. Oh, and the winner of that game will probably have to face Leo in round 2.
Yeah. But see, that's what we like. We like it to be decided on the field. Like they're going to get another shot. They're and Leo's sitting there being like, "Man, we lost by 1 point in overtime, and that is the killer on our home court or on our home field, I should say." So they're going to get a chance, most likely, to face one of those teams again. And then again, the Leo East Noble game was a 14-7 game a few weeks ago. So
East Noble wants another shot.
The margin is just so thin between these 3 teams, and that's what's been great about it. But you're right, it is kind of fitting that we could very well be seeing 3 people share the NE8 title on Friday. ACAC, I know that you look at the final score and say, oh, it's 24-0. They handled Bluffton pretty well.
Yeah.
Bluffton was in that game. I mean, 7-0 at halftime. Bluffton, and the thing about it was, we talked about Bluffton's offense with Hunt and Betancourt and a number of those guys, their young running back, Cooper. But really, it was defensively they played pretty well on Friday night to make that a game until, later in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was 7-0 at halftime. It was 10-0 after 3 quarters. I mean, this was a close game throughout. We're usually seeing, okay, Adams Central's up 28-0 at the end of the first quarter.
They were up 35-0 at Heritage.
Yeah, right? So you're like, oh, game over. So can Bluffton now, I think it's a big game this week for Bluffton going to Lakeland because they've lost 2 straight games. Lakeland is a good team, and then Bluffton, has to go to Alexandria to start the playoffs next week. So you're looking at Bluffton that people are overlooking maybe that final score last week because of Adams Central being Adams Central. But that Bluffton defense played really good. If the offense can bounce back and the defense can have another good week against a good offense in Lakeland, then I think Bluffton feels pretty good going into the playoffs. Man, it's been a rough couple weeks for the Tigers. Now you go on the road, and then you draw a one-loss Alexandria team. Once you become number 1, it seems like that that target's on you for sure.
Yeah, and when I look at 2A, obviously Bishop Luers could win the SAC, so that makes it pretty tough, and we know their postseason history. But when you look at the rest of the teams that are in the top 10 or getting votes in the polls for 2A, there isn't any one team that just scares the heck out of me. But you could also lose to all of them. Like, they're all pretty good, but they aren't overly dominant. You know, so if you're bluffing, you're like, we can make a run of this thing. Conversely, we could be one and done. Like, we got to figure it out.
Yeah, you definitely do, because you have Alexandria. You may have a rematch with Eastbrook in round 2. That you look conversely at the other sectional. You have Bishop Luers that has to go to Busco, but then you look at that, inevitably looks like a Luers Eastside round 5, 5th straight year they'll meet in the playoffs. And so you look at all of those teams, and if, like you said, if they go on a run, you could win a regional. But you could also lose first round, second round if you don't watch it. I mean, even in the North in 2A, you're looking at LaVille, I guess, but is anybody scared of LaVille? But then again, you know, how many teams looking at Bluffton are really scared, or Luers or Eastside? So I agree with you. The North in 2A is just wide open.
Let's talk a little bit about the NECC. Week 7, West Noble wrapped up the big division championship. Week 8, Eastside did the same in the small school division with a win over Central Noble. And I think you guys alluded to this on Twitter earlier today, that Alex Brandewie maybe not getting the credit that he deserves, because kind of an interesting situation that he took over. Todd Mason leaves. He's coaching now at Trine University. But when you take a look at what he's been able to do with Eastside, given all the turnover, not only players but with coaches as well, it's been a pretty good to win a conference title for the 5th straight year. That's nothing to sneeze at.
You're doing something right. And Alex Brandewie tried to come in, and it's a fine line to not change too much, but also put your own stamp on the program. And that's what I think Coach Brandewie has fought this year. And he's done a great job of it. And it helps that you have the offensive and defensive fronts that you have at Eastside that's really set the tone. And Wyatt Davis has been really good, but up front has been the key for Eastside. And they'll try to tune up with another win this week before they start the playoffs, and again, have another shot at Bishop Luers in a couple weeks if that happens.
And one thing, I want to rewind a little bit and talk ACAC, because it was confirmed, I think, by Outside the Huddle earlier today that Mike Smith no longer the head coach at Woodland High School. 10-38, I believe, in 4 seasons there. 10-28, excuse me.
10-28,
in 4 seasons there. Didn't see that one coming, but obviously I don't know all the machinations behind the scenes. But when you take a look at making a coaching change at this point in the year, boy, it's going to be tough, you would think, for the rest of the season, especially they got Adams Central this coming Friday night.
Yeah, it was a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and I think, you know, recent behavior by Coach Smith is kind of factoring into that, and so now you have to go forward and somehow move forward in week 9 and beyond. The good thing is, I guess, you played 2 games previously without him in weeks 6 and 7, so you already have that precedent there. But Woodland, for a team that we looked at the beginning of the season and said, maybe they can jump up there in that conversation. We're seeing Heritage do it over the last couple of years, maybe Woodland, but it just hasn't worked out for the Warriors, and now they have to finish the season without their head coach before they kind of search for another one.
As we start talking about moving forward, what are you most looking forward to about week 9 here, and how does this set the table as the appetizer, if you will, for the postseason, which we all have been waiting for quite some time in what is week 10 of the season?
It's always cliche, but every coach wants to say it and believes in it, that they want to be playing their best football come the postseason. This is the final tune-up for that. Whether you're looking to clinch a championship in your conference, whether you're trying to find win number 1 or anything in between, coaches want their teams to be playing their best possible football entering week 10. This is the final chance to do that.
All right, we'll have it all covered for you next week right here on Inside the Zone with Justin. But for now, I'm Glenn, and we'll see you next Monday.